Recovery podcast is real-life stories from everyday people in recovery. From mental health issues, trauma, substance misuse, and behavioural addictions. Please visit the website www.lifeinrecovery.co.uk for links to social media and a range of books written by your podcast host, Ren Coy.
Hello and welcome to the Life in Recovery podcast, episode 58 with me, Ren Coy. This episode is definitely one of my favourite episodes that I've ever recorded. I absolutely love this conversation with Alejandro and Gintare, who are the founders of an ayahuasca retreat just north of Barcelona in Spain called Avalon Love. Gintare got in touch with me on Facebook probably over a year ago now, just to connect and to say that she felt that the work that I was doing was great, and we ended up speaking on the phone that day and we just really hit it off, and I shared my experience with ayahuasca with her and she told me all about the retreat that they run together, and yeah, we just have stayed in touch ever since, and we managed to all get together via Skype because they're currently in Ibiza having a break from the retreats. And like I said, it was just one of my favourite conversations that I've had on the podcast. I just love speaking to really interesting people who are just passionate about the things that they do, and ultimately, you know, everything that we talk about on this podcast is about helping people, whether it's through traditional means of recovery or through psychedelic medicines. Now, I do know that this is or can be quite a contentious subject in recovery circles, so I completely understand if people aren't interested in listening to the podcast as a result of that. But I think if you just give it a chance, you'll hear and be able to understand how these medicines can actually be beneficial for people that are struggling with mental health issues, addictions and trauma. And it's just an alternative mode of healing, which I personally have experienced, so I can advocate for it. And I genuinely think that there is a mystical power out there in these medicines that can help humanity to both evolve and to save this planet as well that we're currently destroying. Obviously, having a baby daughter that has been brought into the world 6 months ago, I desperately don't want that to happen, and I want her to live in a world that is viable for the continuation of life, and that she doesn't have to witness the horror and destruction that could be facing us if we don't start turning things around. I haven't seen it yet, but David Attenborough's BBC documentary Extinction is apparently harrowing, and explains, you know, if we don't start doing something quick, what faces us in the future. And ayahuasca is a modality that will ensure a spiritual awakening, will ensure that you have a massive experience that you cannot deny, and it will help you to change your perception on life in general, and will also help you change the way you live your life, and will help you to become more helpful in general. So I really do hope that you enjoy listening to this as much as I enjoyed speaking with Alejandro and Gintare.
So let's start with my personal story. I used to do something which is nothing related to retreats and ayahuasca or spirituality. I used to run small business since I was 16. I studied different things as public relations, advertisement, and civil engineer. I was looking for my place in this world, in the way which society told me I should study, I should get a good job, succeed in life, of course financial, no? And I started that journey, and I may say that I was quite successful.
Yeah.
I always had a very powerful mind, which allowed me to succeed in every single thing I wanted. No, but I was never fulfilled. It didn't matter how many things I was capable to do, how many countries I visit, or how many restaurants I tried, or buying things, or meeting women. No, in certain point in my life, that was up to 2016. I asked myself why I'm not happy. I was anxious, stressed, with always unfulfilled. No.
Yeah.
So then I said, okay, so if I do the same things I am doing, most probably I will not have any changes, big changes, no?
Mm.
And I was very into the sensorial, no? I really like it to experience in life, but deep in me, I had this feeling of there is something else, no? But in Europe, back in Barcelona, it was too much noise for me. Noise understood as friends calling you, and parties, and events, and this thing and that thing. So it was very difficult for me to get out of that lifestyle, that it was fun, but it was not fulfilling. No?
Yeah.
So then I asked myself, okay, let's go to find these answers to another place, maybe a place which is more aligned and to this new chapter that you are opening, no?
Mm-hmm.
Which it was spirituality, and in that time was Buddhism. So then I went to India, and that's how my journey started. I went to India, the north part of India, backpacking for 2 months, doing a retreat in meditation called Vipassana, 10 days in silence, not speaking, not any contact with phone, with books, with anything, just meditating 11 hours a day. And that was the first light that it shown to me of something else in life that is not this material part of it, which I never had rejected, neither today. No. And then I came back to Europe, and what was quite shocking, I could implement new things in my life. It was just the beginning, but something changed. No. Then I started to focus on health and body, movement, nutrition. I hired a PT. I joined the program, which really allowed me to live with way much more quality of life. No? And through this PT, that was a Swedish guy that runs a program in Barcelona, a holistic program. One of the activities that was part of the program, which he invited me, was an ayahuasca retreat. No? In that time, after working in nightlife for 11 years, I never touched anything but alcohol. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was super scared of what I have witnessing during my 11 years working at nightlife. Of my friends were dealers and owners of clubs, and I guess that you have an idea of what is that. And I always loved music the first, so I never had any contact with anything, no?
Yeah.
So it was a breakthrough for me, but I had deep in me this intuition, this voice inside me that this is what you should do, you know? And I am a very mental and rational guy, even today, less than back on the days. But I say, okay, let's do something different, no? And I joined that for a weekend in an isolated house with a group of 10 people with a shaman. And wow, then is when really the gate of spirituality, the gate of something else, and everything fall into place. And then I wanted to keep discovering. It was so intense, so big for me that I say, okay, I want to share this with my friends. I want to share this with my brother. I want to keep exploring because I know that this is not the end. It's just the beginning of something new, you know?
Mm.
So then every 3-4 months, I used to organize small retreats in a very simple conditions for friends and family. Just for sharing what changed my life, no? Small circles, word to mouth, and as a hobby, no? In that time, I separated, which is the material reality and the spiritual reality. So it was like, okay, this is a weekend for working in the spiritual, and then after 3 or 4 months, I will do it again, no? And it was quite beautiful what we created, and I was even discovering more things. So I went to Mexico for 2 months again, backpacking, and then I discovered another medicine, which was temazcal, is a sweat lodge. And then I did my first mushroom ceremony with indigenous in the hills, in the mountains. So I was exploring myself first, and then what it worked for me, sharing in these small gatherings for a weekend, no?
Yep.
In one of them, then Gintare came to me. A very, very long story. The universe put her in my life. She will explain you how this crossroads happened, but then,
Yeah.
which is very interesting.
Separate stories that unite at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will give that to her. But then suddenly it changed the format of what I was doing. I needed to do some work in my belief system regarding to creating a business with my partner, which I was very scared, and to break also the belief that we can sustain ourselves and making a living through spirituality. No, I was keeping my businesses, and this was something that I did for free. No,
Yeah.
and through that work, I could join her, and that was 1 year and something ago. And since then 1 year and a half ago, and since then we have been organizing retreats in a proper way with a holistic approach, with a team, with very good conditions in terms of safety and comfort.
Beautiful. So the retreats are called Avalon Love, is that correct?
Yeah, Avalon.love. Yeah.
Yeah. And where are they based?
They are based 1 hour and a half north from Barcelona, almost in the border with France.
Yeah, okay, that's beautiful. And the story was great. I mean, I got so much identification there, Alejandro, because similarly to you, I did my first ayahuasca retreat about 2 years ago, in 2017. And then the year after, I did a Vipassana 10-day silent meditation retreat. And then the year after that, I did my first mushroom experience, psilocybin. And just opened me up completely to the spiritual. I mean, prior to that, I'd been very much into meditation and living a spiritual life for about 5 or 6 years before that anyway. But those medicines just took me into a whole new dimension. And it's something that, I've spoken about a lot on the podcast because these experiences have really shaped my life. But ironically, they're quite taboo in the recovery kind of community, which I don't know whether you're aware of that or not. But obviously, the people who, used to drink alcohol and take drugs and are now in recovery, they try to primarily be abstinent from all mind and mood altering substances. So the idea of psychedelic medicines can often be quite scary for people in recovery and can often be something that is very misunderstood and it is very much something that people don't want to kind of get into. And understandable as well, especially for those people that used to use psychedelics as recreational drugs, which obviously they're not supposed to be used that way. So yeah, I got loads of identification there, and it's a really great story. So I'm really interested to hear how Gintare's story ties in with yours as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the space to share life.
My story really began just 2 years ago, but before that I did all the things prescribed by society, hadn't got a job, studied, tried to have relationships, had my own battles in the relationships. But besides that, everything seemed pretty fine on paper. And obviously, to have some sort of escape from that life, because somewhere deep in me, I knew that it's not it. That part of me is very, very sad and very miserable, that the little girl in me is crying every single night, So I used to drink quite a lot, alcohol. By a lot, I mean easily 2-3 bottles of champagne per night. And for me, that was my way to find some joy, where I would feel very social, I would feel very happy with my life, and then I would start another week at my work and I would continue going with my life and pretending that my life is just so perfect, And I would have another weekend where I would look for an escape from it, And that continued ongoing, though nobody, I would say, in my circles would ever have expected that this life was not perfect, Yet I knew, because we always know deep inside of us when we lay to sleep with ourselves, with our thoughts, with the pains and the traumas that we have, that this is not it. And my big question was that, is there a way? Because when I looked around in people in my circles, and everybody seemed to be living this kind of life, this half asleep, half dead, silently miserable, yet we go out, we have a drink, we tell all the fun stories about our last travels, and we go back to that misery, And I was always asking that question, yet I didn't know what to do. I just had a lot of questions. Actually, there's a beautiful, beautiful quote that says, the quality of your life is defined by the quality of the questions that you ask. And we must ask questions. That's why we are here, and that's why there are people listening to the podcast. Maybe somebody's life stories hold answers, and probably they do. So yeah, then I continued going with my little pretty life, and at some point, I couldn't take it anymore. And I had this idea. It's like, sometimes in our life, things just pop up. I call it signs. I call it universe guiding. My sign was that I must go to Costa Rica for 2 months. Why Costa Rica? I've never been outside of Europe really at that time, but it was just very clearly I have to take a break from my work, where I was working. You can also call it in some way work addiction, because I was working 24/7 nonstop. I thought it's normal. And I knew I had to go on my own. First time in my life really on my own, and to explore that being, that life inside of me. Because if I don't understand how the life inside of me works, it's very difficult to make the life outside of yourself work, So went on my own journey, solo, to Costa Rica. And I thought, what will I do in Costa Rica alone? So I started Googling things. And there's this retreat place that popped up. And there was something mentioned about ayahuasca. So they're offering plant medicines. I've never heard about it. I never knew anything about shamanism or any of those types, but I started reading the stories of people. I started watching videos and testimonials, and there was something there. I saw the light in people's eyes that I could not find in myself anymore. People with deep traumas, people with addictions, people just in very perfectly successful lives with a lot of money that it doesn't work for them anymore. And people were sharing their stories that they found something very, very deep, and they can't even describe it in words. And that called me. Now, that's why I always say to people, listen to the calling. If anything that I'm sharing right now, my beloved, resonates with you, trust it and follow it, go for it, and then see what unfolds. So I signed up for that retreat. It was extremely, extremely expensive at that time. It's, I guess, one of the most expensive places, but I just knew I had to do it. I didn't research much about ayahuasca. I think, even fully understand that it's very, very intense. I just knew I had to jump for it. I didn't know that there is DMT in it or any of that type, nor did I care. I just knew I had to give a chance to life, because nothing I've tried before worked. And this seems to work for people, And I went on the journey. I went for my 2 months, out of which I would say one night was the most significant night of my life. And that was the night when I drank madre. I say madre, this is a side note to the story, because I can never call this a substance. I can never call ayahuasca a substance. It's something else. It's a spirit, it's a consciousness, it's universal force, but I cannot call her a substance. So, and I really, for the first time in my life, I got to know the life inside of me. It was like having a conversation with my inner being, an inner being that's way wiser than my mind, than my trauma, than my thoughts. And that inner being appeared to know everything, all the answers to all the questions I've been looking for, and they were right there inside of me all along. And it was very, very profound. I even had a lot of laugh about my misery, about my miserable choices, about how I deprived myself from life, about how where I was in my life at that point, and that I was miserable just because of the choices I made, and that I didn't believe that I deserve any better. So that night completely changed my little universe of what is possible. I saw a lot of beautiful stories around me. I don't consider myself the most severely traumatized, but I've seen people with very, very, very difficult conditions, and I've seen what happened to them. I've seen their eyes, and those eyes is exactly what brings me right now to this moment, 3 years ahead now, along the journey, sharing this medicine with the world, because that look in the eyes, when we are no longer defined by the misery, when we shed the identities and there is purity in every single one of us, and that we remember that through the sacred medicine, for me is worth everything, no? So it changed my life. I knew I had to share it. I knew I had to share it in a certain way. The universe, medicine, whatever, was very specific that this has to be done right, my girl, has to be done right. You people in the West are very disconnected from life, and it's not enough to just drink the medicine. You need proper integration of the medicine. It means you need to really have the support to undo the programs, the silly movies that are playing in the mind. You really need to replace them with something better, but somebody has to walk this journey with you. So I knew that I have to done it in a let's say a bit different way than what was available in Europe. With coaching, with psychologists, with people that are actually able to work with more difficult cases that need more support. And I just had that. I put it out. This is what I had to do. How will I do it? I had no clue. And then I showed up in Alejandro's ceremony. This is how the stories align. And there was this beautiful man that was running this circles, no? And as a hobby. And I shared with him my big vision of creating holistic healing center with this and that and this and that. And he looked at me, he thought I was crazy. Probably I was. Yet we partnered up in life, and I continued with Avalon concept, and he joined me. He was the essential piece in the puzzle. He's actually the one that brings all the healers and all this, let's say, the holistic concept. I think a lot of it is designed by him. And we had our first retreat together with, I think the team was 8 people, and we had 12 people as participants, and it was life-changing. It was life-changing for them. So that was like a yes from the universe. Hey guys, this is really good. You're doing great work, keep on doing, and bring more healers, bring more psychologists, design even deeper the integration programs. No, let's start moving these icebergs that we've been carrying on our backs. No, let's do this. And then we started really to make this our life purpose. No, it's our full-time activity. It's not a hobby that we do. It's not a business that we do to make money, but it's everything that we breathe. Because as I said before, the look in the eyes that I see after the retreat in people that probably haven't believed that they have any hope, for me is worth everything. And I wish that for everybody. No? So this is a bit about how our stories intertwine, how my story brought me to him. And here we are now creating this beautiful project, no?
So it's a passionate vocation.
Yes, that's for sure.
Yeah, another beautiful story. And again, I got so much identification and related to your story with ayahuasca specifically, because when I went into my first ceremony and drank the medicine for the first time, she appeared to me almost immediately, and then it was like a running conversation all the way through. And exactly as you described it, she just answered every question that I asked, and she gave me all the answers to the. I mean, I went there because me and my partner Adele had split up, and we'd been separated for about 4 or 5 weeks at the time, and I didn't know whether I'd make the right decision. So, you know, when you go into the ceremony, they say to you to go in with intentions, don't they? And what my first intention was to find out whether Adele and I were supposed to be together, and she immediately dealt with that one. And now we're engaged to be married, and we have a baby daughter that's 6 months old. So, it was just incredible. And she helped me to understand that on a deep level, that I was loved, that everybody in my life loves me. And it was that, that missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle, because I've been going through my life, with this hole in my soul, and it came down to that one thing of not really knowing inherently that, that everybody in my life really loved me. And I think that probably came from abandonment issues from an early age. I mean, my dad's in recovery as well, and he, we did a podcast a few months ago, and it was kind of plain to see during that conversation that as a young baby, when you're brought into the world, and you've got a parent who's an alcoholic or an addict, it starts off very badly, and the abandonment that you feel just doesn't get any better. And I think I'd been carrying that in my, I'd definitely been carrying that my whole life. So, yeah, I've got a lot to thank Mother Ayahuasca for. And I'm looking forward to the next time we meet again, because I haven't had another ceremony since then. I had the second ceremony that I had the day after that one. I only drank half of the medicine because my first experience was so profound that I just didn't feel as though there was anything more to learn from that particular session. And she said to me, she said, no, you've learnt enough this time. She said that's enough for now. So so I look forward to the next time, but whenever that will be, I'm not sure. But it's beautiful to hear what you're doing. And I think that it's interesting to hear these very, very powerful stories of two people that were living this, normal materialistic life. And the word that you used was you were miserable. And I see that, I just see that there's so many people that are like you said, that they're half asleep or half awake, however you want to say it. And they're just miserable, and they don't even know that they're miserable, really. I don't think they're fully aware of that until you have one of these incredible life-changing spiritual experiences. It's very difficult to put your finger on the reason why you are miserable. And can you just talk a little bit more about that? Like, how do you get to the root of that issue? Because I have my own thoughts on it, and I'll share those in a moment. But I'd like to hear your take on that first.
One thing I just wanted to add, because it's very interesting. A lot of people that join the retreats, they are in a very deep misery, which I see as a great opportunity. No, because when you half asleep or half awake, you are not even aware that you're miserable. That's a very tricky, stagnating state to be. And people that come to us, many of them are depressed, some have addictions, all this kind of is people that they say, I have almost nothing to lose. Because there's nothing left there. And when I look at them, they have nothing to lose. They're willing really to make the change. So in this kind of people, I see some of the biggest transformations in the retreat. Because when you have nothing to lose, you're just so sad and so miserable, you say, I'm going to give it all. No? So this is just for me wanting to share that I see great beauty in that. I see great beauty because behind it, just right behind it, there is an opportunity for great change when you're willing to make that step. No? And if you want to answer his question, just something I wanted to add.
And I just wanted to add to that as well, that interesting that you've said that, because the people that in recovery, so in 12-step recovery, that I'm part of those fellowships, the people that come to those fellowships are in exactly the same state. They've hit rock bottom. They're at the worst point in their lives, and they're just desperate for help. And they've come to the fellowship to get that help, and they're met with the love of the fellowship. And it's a very, very similar situation. And the word that you used as well, which was program, obviously there's the 12-step program, which is what I've followed, and I still work to this day. But you obviously have designed a program of holistic healing and wellness for your clients that come to see you. So that makes total sense to me, that you're dealing with, mind, body, and spirit.
I would say that the majority of cases of people that they are in that situation, not that they reach the rock bottom, they already try everything which is more mainstream. No?
Yeah.
But it didn't work. And it didn't work because, in my personal opinion, because these approaches, they don't go to the root of the problem, no?
Absolutely.
And when they tried everything and it didn't work, then is when they say, okay, I will give a chance to the alternative options, because nothing worked, no? And then is when they reach psychedelics or another, let's say, less traditional, less accepted, socially accepted practices, no? And then they have the experience of their life, and they are able to see with so much clarity what the problem comes from, how they are avoiding and escaping using all kind of things. It's the same. For me, it's not much difference if I use drugs, or I use sex, or I use work, or I use money, or I use whatever it is to fulfill, to escape, or to hide the parts of myself that I don't want to see. But the magic thing of ayahuasca is that there is no escape. You take the beverage, and there is not possible. There is no option to turn back.
No.
And that's scaring, but at the same time is where the magic happens.
Yeah, there is no turning back, no?
No.
And that's another thing why this particular medicine with psychedelics, yes, you can use it recreationally. I haven't yet met anybody nor seen any cases that use ayahuasca recreationally, because it's such a difficult experience to go through, all this vomiting, and it takes you straight to the sometimes darkest parts in you, most unloved parts. There is nothing really dark there. It's just unloved parts of you, no? So it takes you there. So to do this recreationally, to escape reality, is just not possible, because this takes you straight to the root of the problem. And normally it's not pretty there in that root, no? So this is one thing that I really, really like about this medicine, because I know how we Westerners, we like to abuse almost everything, and we can get addicted to many, many things, and we are always looking for some sort of escape, a shortcut, no? But there is no shortcut. You must go to the root of the issue, which ayahuasca always does. She has her own willpower, and it's obviously you're co-creating, but she has her own willpower, and she will take you where she wants to take you. As Alejandro said, all you can do is surrender, because you can't run away from it anymore. It's time to see what you've been hiding from, no? This is just something I really particularly love about this medicine, and I believe in its capacity to really help people that have been escaping, because with this one you can't escape. Yet, obviously, you need to have a proper support, integration, etc., merging back with your old life, no? The world that you've created around yourself, which for many people is very toxic, no? So how do you merge back into that world with this new you that's been born? For me, that's one thing I would say for people with addictions or a type of more severe conditions is very important. And this is very much, so the work that you're doing with these people, it's very important to have that support.
Well, it's interesting that you should say that, because again, I'm going to echo a lot of what you just said, but the one thing that the failure of the retreat that I went to was because there was a delay in the medicine was coming from Peru, basically, because I did my retreat with the shaman of the Shipibo tribe, and they flew over to Mallorca, where I was staying, and the medicine got lost apparently, or got stuck at the airport. So anyway, it put the ceremonies back, and it meant that there wasn't the integration that was supposed to happen afterwards. Didn't really happen, and as a result, when I was kind of integrating back into society, it was quite difficult. It was that first morning was a bit hairy, to say the least, and the following couple of days, 2 or 3 days, it was quite strange, really, because I was trying to kind of fit back into my normal job role and stuff, and I still had her voice in my subconscious, kind of like, speaking to me almost. And but the experience itself, as Alejandro was saying, you can't escape it. And one of I wrote a book, actually. I was when I was over there for the retreat, I was in the middle of writing a book about coincidences and synchronicity, etc. And as I was getting towards the end of this book, this unbelievable synchronicity happened, which was I was asked to film the team picking out the names out of a hat to win a retreat. And the name that I picked out of the hat was actually somebody that I knew, that I used to DJ with her for years, like 10 years previously. So I sent this person a message, because at the time I was having a bit of a panic, thinking, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be doing this? Anyway, I picked out this name and I couldn't believe it. My head nearly fell off my shoulders. And I sent her a message, told her where I was, and she was like, amazing, just have an amazing time, like it'll be brilliant. So I had the experience of it, and during my experience, Mother told me to stop writing the book that I was writing and write a new book. She said, you need to write a book about this experience. So I did. I wrote a book called Together, an ayahuasca experience. And the point I'm trying to get to is that I kind of wrote in the book that it was almost like the ayahuasca experience was a bit of a shortcut, really, because I'd reached this point in my relationship where I didn't know whether it was right for me or wrong for me or, whatever. I had the experience, and it obviously put all that stuff into place. And it was almost like I'd used a cheat code for life. But I kind of missed the point a little bit in that what Alejandro just said there is the actual truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is it's such a difficult experience that it's not something that you would just do, on a whim. And to have the bravery and the courage, which we all have, in order to drink the medicine and to go through these experiences and really face ourselves, is definitely not a shortcut. It's like the hard way through, I think. And so I agree with what you just said.
I would like to add something in the same lines that you were saying before about integration, no? After the experience and how hard it is. We had cases of people from UK with very difficult profiles, with alcohol, with drugs, with aggressive environments of gangs and all kind of stories, no? And some people refer to ayahuasca as a miracle, as a pill that you take and then everything is solved. We are not agree with that approach, in the fact that you take madre, and madre shows you everything, yeah? And then after a very difficult experience, as you were describing it, and it takes a lot of courage and to be brave, then you have clarity in life of what to do, how to do it, why you have been doing this, and the solution to the problems. Yeah, great. But then you go back to your home, or to your neighborhood, or to your job, and anything has changed. It's the same. And then the challenge is how I deal with all these situations, which some of them are very damaging for myself. I need to cut. and I need to change and implement all of these changes. And this is the real big challenge, no? And we call it integration. Because otherwise you will go back to the same stage that you were before, no? And this is where the huge power and the huge magic of Madre takes the best, is doing a correct integration on that.
Beautiful
Yeah,
shared.
the hard work starts after the ceremony, doesn't it, really?
Yeah.
But you have a beautiful opportunity, a window where you get to see how damaging your life is, and you get to see what you need to do. Because very often we're in these damaging situations and we really don't know what to do. We've been doing this for so many years. We really don't see any hope and any light. Here you have the hope, you have the light, you have a blank page, and you need to write a different story. If you're going to just copy paste what you've been writing before, it's going to be the same thing. You do the same thing, you will have the same result. But you have a blank page. And for me, that's already as close to a miracle as one can find in this world that's so toxic, no? You have an opportunity. You have an opportunity. Your life doesn't have to be that hard. You don't need to create the same stories, the same patterns, the same traumas that your parents have been living. You can be the one that will cut the chain of misery. You can be the one that will create a new future for the humanity, no? So be that catalyst, take that chance, and then do the work, do the homework, no? This is what I always like to say. And anything can change.
Sorry, go on.
No, I said anything can change in life. Now it's not that, this person is really, this cannot change. This is just too much. Anything can change, and can change pretty quick if you're willing to do the work. No, that's just what I wanted to share.
Amen to that. I certainly agree with that. One of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you today as well is to talk about what runs parallel with this work as well, which is, so my experience was not only that I dealt with those issues that needed to be dealt with, but I also had a massive spiritual experience. So I literally went into what can only be described as samadhi, nirvana, whatever you want to call it, that blissful oneness. And I was there for a long time. I mean, I don't know exactly how long it was in terms of Earth time, but it felt like an infinity. And it was the single most beautiful experience that I've ever had. And I tried to describe it in the book, and I was kind of trying to associate it with some sort of like drug experience, really, like ecstasy times a million, and that kind of thing. But the reason why it was so profound, and then the thoughts that came after for me, were that the founder or the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, a guy called Bill Wilson, he not only had a massive spiritual experience at the beginning, before he got stayed sober. He had a massive spiritual experience, which could have been a lot to do with the fact that the hospital that he was in was feeding him belladonna, which is a psychedelic. So I think that had a lot to do with his initial spiritual experience. And then later on in his recovery, he did quite a lot of work with LSD. And as a result of his work with LSD, he wrote what's called the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, which is a book that accompanies the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. And in that book, he went into real depth about, the emotional intelligence that comes with recovery. And essentially, he was describing all the kind of experiences that he'd had through psychedelics and trying to impart those onto, recovering alcoholics and addicts. And he was a real proponent for potentially alcoholics and addicts using psychedelics so that they could have a spiritual awakening or a spiritual experience, because he knew that recovery from trauma and mental health and emotional issues hinged on those spiritual experiences. So can you talk a little bit more about your take on that and what your experiences have been as well, please?
On the spiritual side of the experience, no?
Yes, please. Yes.
For me, we even have it actually on our website. There are, I see, two key pillars in the work that this beautiful plant does. No, one of them is healing. It's just stripping away the layers. It's what we've been just talking about. No.
Yep.
Maybe it's the hardest part, but it's something that has to be done. But then another part opens to you, which we call visionary. It can be this awakening, enlightenment, can be a lot of different names for it, is to really remember what is life all about here on earth. No, it's not supposed to be that misery. It's a blissful state that we encounter there, which is for many called reunion with God, reunion with love, this very profound feeling of love. Even people that are not religious, which most of people that are joining the retreats, they experience this profound feeling of love, whatever God, universal energy. And this is like a reminder of who we are, why we are on this planet. No, we are trying to remember why we are on this planet. To be in this misery? To make money? No. There is something way more, something way greater. And the medicine really wants to do this work. She does the healing work, but ultimately she wants to remind us what unites us. She wants to remind us about love. She wants to remind us where we come from, no? So that blissful state is a very common phenomenon that many experience. And then you see them next day and they go, no way, this can't be it. It can't be that great. It can be that it's all a miracle and everything is really working in a wondrous, magical way. And we can have all that we want. And love is our birthright. And love is who we are. A lot of these different things that obviously once you experience, then it's way easier to relate to what I'm sharing. No, But she loves to go there when people are ready. It's remembering why you're alive. Remembering why you're alive. Who are you really? Is a big question. We need to keep on asking it, no? And she has, I would also say, her own mission on this planet. No, you see, you ended up writing the book. Why? Yeah. No, she told you. Me and Alejandro ended up creating this retreat because she told us. So she has her own plan for humanity because we cannot live this way anymore. It's not supposed to be that hard. It's not supposed to be that painful. It's a joyful ride. It's a magical dance. No, and she is working for every one of us to remind us of who we are, why we are here, and ultimately that love is all there is. That I have tattooed on my hand actually. So I never forget, when I go in my silly mind.
Well, she obviously wanted us to connect as well, because it was probably maybe over a year ago now that you sent me a message on Facebook and you just said, I've kind of, I don't even know what it was. Was it that you'd listened to a podcast or you just saw the post that was putting up or something, and you just said it'd be nice to have a chat. And when we had a conversation, and I was like, that was one of the nicest conversations that I've had in years. And it was just with this random person that I didn't know until she phoned me on Facebook. And I thought to myself, right, well, A, I need to get over to Spain to see these people, and B, you definitely need to be a guest on the podcast at some point. So I think that, another thing that she's got planned, that she had planned for me, was to start running this podcast, and that's what I've done. And I'm just hoping to get the message out there, and I hope that people out there that are listening to this, anybody that, like you said, anybody that's tried everything and it just doesn't work for them, why not give it a go? There's nothing to lose, and you very, very rarely hear of people having terrible experiences, so long as they follow the guidance and do it the right way, which I know you guys do.
Yeah, I would say that's that, because every time, of course, after retreat, we check in with people way after the retreat, and everybody most of them had life-changing experiences, and the ones that they struggle mainly with the integration. So the choices that they have to make, they refuse to make the choices, they postpone the choices, but ultimately they all had that opening. So it's quite rare to encounter such a thing that actually does work. I don't like the word for everybody. No, we take case by case basis, but it does work for so many. For me, it's a blessing. No,
I will say that it's impossible to forget such an experience. No, I used to say that in the ceremony there are different chapters. No, so the Madre takes you for different chapters of different, and when you are experiencing one of the chapters that you described previously about this samadhi, or this pure like bliss and reunited to the whole, to the source, it's an experience that you will remember the rest of your life, and it's still with you, no?
Absolutely.
For my case, it was the first time I experienced what we call an ego death. No, because this society tell us that, or at least the way I understood it, that I guess it is the majority of people, is I am Alejandro. This is my identity. I have a body. I have a mind, and this is me. Soul. What is soul? My father is an engineer. My grandfather and my great grandfather, all engineers. I can believe in what I can touch, what I can smell, what I can taste. No. And then when you fully understand that this is just an expression, like a vehicle of something so much greater than what you are, that you are part of God, part of the ultimate, the source, energy, love, whatever you want to call it, in the religion that you want to express it, everything changes and everything becomes a game, and I'm playing the roles and understand that this is just a theater, is an illusion, which it's amazing as an experience, but it changes the way you play the game.
Life is not happening to you anymore. Life is not happening to you. Circumstances don't just pop up. You understand how it's all part of what you are pulling towards yourself, no? And that's a big game changer. Then you understand that you're the creator and you're running the show, really, with the universe together, no? So it puts you in a very, it gives a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, it empowers you a lot, because actually you don't need to be defined by this life experience that you have, no? You actually can recreate a different future. You are the creator, a creator in flesh, in a flesh suit. A pretty, not so pretty, doesn't matter, that you're wearing now, that one day you will drop it. One day you will drop it and you will go again. So when you understand that, really the rules of the game change. Maybe for once in your life, you really understand what are the rules of the game. How can we be happy? How can we succeed? How can we find ourselves if we don't understand how the nature of life works? We have no clue how life works. Obviously, random things happen to you, and pretty awful things, because you don't understand the rules of the game. When you do understand them, then it really becomes pretty magical, and that I can share from my own experience. Every day is magic. Bad things happen, some might say, no, some things that I don't want, yeah, but I can see why. So I play with it. I have a good laugh about it, no? It's a big game changer. I think beautifully explained by Alejandro.
The simplicity of it is that, as you've just said there, is it's happening for you rather than to you, isn't it? It's happening for your spiritual enlightenment, essentially. That's the way that I look at it now. Everything that happens is to take me higher and higher to a point, to a place, well, to wherever I can get to, really, in this lifetime, until I drop the body. And then, like you said, we'll go again. It's a beautiful metaphor. I love it. So what's the plan?
We remember.
Say again.
I said it's about time that we remember.
It is, yeah. And I think this is the thing, isn't it, that we live in a world now where, unless, as Alejandro was saying, unless it's kind of there in front of you and you can feel it and touch it and smell it, we won't believe it. But ironically, science is now starting to prove through quantum physics that reality doesn't exist at all. That everything that we experience is not real. If we didn't have this body to feel, smell and touch things, then what we would actually experience would be nothing like what is actually going on. And it's led me to write, during the pandemic lockdown, I was thinking about this hopeful kind of merger of science and spirituality, and it just came to the fruition as a new book. So I've just more or less put the finishing touches to my new book, which is called All Is One, the science and spirituality of consciousness. And I've done a whole chapter about what science says about consciousness, and then I've done another chapter about what spirituality says about consciousness, and then meditation and psychedelics, and I've woven it all together, because ultimately philosophy and science and religion and spirituality, it does all converge to this one truth, that all is one, and unless when you're asleep and you don't even contemplate this idea, it never even enters your head, does it? It's not even something that's remotely on your radar. But once you've had a psychedelic experience, especially with ayahuasca, you can't get away from the fact that you are just consciousness. That is what is going on here. And that consciousness is experienced in itself as the universe. And it's only when I meet people like yourselves that I can actually have this conversation with you, because you've experienced it too. Do you find that speaking to people initially when they first come to the retreats, they don't kind of have a grasp of this stuff, or how does that work initially?
I think we are pretty blessed in general because we get to mingle with the people that are drinking ayahuasca. So we talk about this stuff all the time, no? But the truth is, yeah, obviously to explain something like that, it's not easy. And you need to meet people where they are at, which every person that joins retreat is in a different place, no? Some are looking for healing, so they don't really think about this whole oneness, love, and all these things. They say, I want to heal, and this is the only thing that's left on my plate, no? So obviously I don't go straight to the big things, no? Because the madre will take him there anyways, on her own, and then we can have that little chat, no? So people in a very different place. Some, I would say at least 50% of people that are aware that they are spiritual in nature, that they have a soul. The rest are maybe just in a very bad place and they're looking for something that can fix them and nothing else work. No, so it's different kind of profiles. Yet even the ones that come without being aware that they are a soul in a body, through this experience they remember. No, so by the end of the retreat, everybody are looking into each other, and what they see is not the eyes, not the bodies, senses lie all the time. They see another soul in this human experience, slightly confused because have forgotten why did he or she come here. And then you remember, and then you share this in the world that you come back to. Share in your own, of course, gentle way, because you can't push these truths on people. Yet your story is the best teacher. So when somebody else sees somebody that's awake, that has this light in their eyes, they go like, well, what did you do? What happened? Well, and then the story starts spilling and spreading in the same way that we're having this conversation right now, and maybe somebody are listening, and maybe some bit of this resonates. No?
And it seems to be that the whole point for every single one of us is to have this awakening so that we will help, like the helping role, as in helping each other and helping humanity as a whole, seems to be the point for me. Do you agree?
Yeah. Once you are back in a good place and you are good with yourself, then the next step usually is, okay, how can I help? No?
Yeah.
How can I share this that now I have? No? Getting back to your previous question, in my opinion, if you try to describe me how the flavor of a cherry is, you may do a quite good job, no? And describe with words, and textures and flavors, and I may will have an idea of the flavor of a cherry, but that will be a completely different experience than eating a cherry, no? A spiritual awakening it's similar in that way. Any single thing I can express with words will be limited, because what the experience is way much more than the mental approach of that, or the tools that we have to describe it will be always limited, no? So I prefer to give opportunity people to experience by themselves, because in my opinion the highest state of knowledge is experience itself, no?
Yeah, God can only be experienced, he can't be explained.
Beautifully said.
So for anybody that's maybe considering ayahuasca as a healing modality, or considering a retreat, using any kind of psychedelics, or maybe even considering coming over to you guys in Spain, what advice would you give them, and what are the first steps?
Super interesting question. One, for sure, ayahuasca comes as a calling. She does. So if something resonated, no, not necessarily in your mind, just have this, follow the clues, follow the signs, do your research, watch the video, see how you feel, and trust the calling. You can't think your way into it. You can only follow it. She calls everybody in. There will be a lot of people that are listening to this and they're thinking, no, definitely not for me. And there will be few that the first thing they will do right now after they stop listening to the podcast, they will open YouTube and they will put ayahuasca documentary or something like that. That's your calling. That's how you know. No? So many people ask me this question, how do I know that I'm ready? Follow the calling. You never will know, because in your mind you cannot know these things. No, that's one thing. So you start following the signs, doing your research, see how you feel, and when you feel that yes, go for it. No need to overthink. And then obviously, as the next steps, at least the way we work, now all the centers are different. When people reach us, call us, or they sign up, we always have a personalized call. And we ask them to fill in a very detailed medical form with all their history, no? And then we have a call and we go very much into detail in that particular person to be sure that, is a good fit, is a good timing, that the person can really prepare well. So in some way, with any place that you choose, it's very important that you have that preparation moment where somebody really talks to you and somebody listens to your story, because your story is very different to somebody else's. And we as organizers, we really need to know all the ins and outs of the addictions, of the substances used, of the fears, of the psychosis, all these things. When we know, we can prepare for it. We can be sure that the person is the right fit for this medicine. And then the rest, you just arrive, you show up, you trust, you surrender, you let go, and you have your life transformed, no? Ultimately. I don't know if you want to.
Just adding something to what Gintare already described is, if someone is listening to this podcast and is already considering doing ayahuasca, then the only here stopper is fear. No? We had host people in the retreat that they have been searching and researching for ayahuasca for 8 years, because never is the right time. Never is the right time, because there is fears. And fears is something that all of us, we do experience. I am the first one, no? The difference between us is what we do when we encounter a fear. We let ourselves dominated and driven by this fear, or we embrace and love our darkness corners of ourselves and go and keep walking, no? So then my advice is to embrace your fears, to love even these parts of yourself that you don't like, no? And find the courage, because all of us, we have it, and keep walking.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. It's so funny, because when you were saying, Gintare, about the you get the call in, that's exactly what happened to me. I did, and Alejandro, I did 3 years of research first. I initially, a friend in recovery said to me, "Have you heard of this psychedelic ayahuasca?" And I said no, and he told me all about it. And I said to him, "You must be crazy." I said, that's like a relapse every day of the week, like you can't take drugs." And he said, "It's not a drug, it's a medicine, And it kept going on about it. So I started to research it, and my first book that I wrote, which was called Addiction Prevention, had a chapter in it called Traditional Medicines. So I was researching all the traditional medicines for that chapter, and the more I read, the more this feeling started to grow inside me, and it was like a visceral calling, like exactly how you described it. It was, I just couldn't get this feeling out of me, and eventually I ended up obviously going and taking ayahuasca. And the ironic thing about it was that I did it and he never did.
He was your messenger.
He was my messenger, yeah. So I was able to explain to him about the experience, but I don't think he's ever done it since. But yeah, it was one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, and this has been one of the best podcasts that I've done. I've really enjoyed speaking with you both. It's been a real pleasure. So thank you very much. Where can we find you online? What's the website?
www.avalon.love.
Avalon.love, yeah.
Avalon.love.
www.avalon.love. Beautiful. And is there anything else that you wanted to add before we finish?
Deep gratitude.
Deep gratitude
for your work, for spreading the word, for sending hope. We are in the same boat. We need more people in that boat. This society, this sick society needs light, needs love, needs hope. So deep gratitude for your work. That's what I would like to add.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, the same to you guys as well. I mean, it's a real pleasure talking to people that understand, this on a deep level, and it's amazing the work that you're doing. And I just wanted to say as well, I think that you're both really brave to have changed your lives and to have gone, began to walk this path, because you've got a lot to give, the pair of you. I mean, the energy just exudes out of both of you, and I mean, I would definitely say that I'm very jealous about all the places that you seem to be taking photographs and posting them on Facebook. it doesn't look like very hard work to me when you're having like baths in lakes next to mountains. But yeah, no, it's really appreciated, and I would love to come over and meet you one day as well.
We surely make it happen. Look at us.
Definitely, yeah. I just wanted to say goodbye via video, because it's been a real pleasure. So thank you so much, and don't work too hard in Ibiza. When are you going back over to Spain?
We will be back for the retreat on October 22nd. We will go a few days before.
Yeah.
We will do our magic, and then we will come back to the island and go back to Barcelona at the end of December for the same. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, you guys take care, and thank you so much. And
It's such a pleasure, truly.
Thanks very much for listening, and if you've been affected by any of the issues discussed in the podcast, just look underneath the podcast at a range of links to mutual aid organisations. Please don't forget that you can support the podcast at patreon.com/lifeinrecovery, and if you go to the website www.lifeinrecovery.co.uk, you'll see links to all my social media and all my books. Peace and love, and goodbye for now.